Hello YouTube, so I've got a new video for you guys, and this is going to be a new series that I'm going to try to start. In the next episode, I'm going to have a friend, James. You guys have seen him in one episode before, but I'm going to have him kind of do what I'm doing in this episode, which this series, I have a bunch of pictures that I randomly found and saved, and I'm going to have them on the screen, and I have to create a. I don't know how long I'm going to do it. First one's going to just be a 30-minute episode, and in those 30 minutes, I have to create a story based off of each of those pictures. I'm not going to record my face doing it because I'm probably going to be making some weird faces that I do not wish to record. And, I don't know, I just feel like it'll be a lot easier to edit for the first one because I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this, how it's going to go, or any of that. Tell me what you guys think about it, and stay tuned for this video. Daniel woke up to the loud, rattling sound of an engine and the feeling of the floor shaking beneath him. And he could feel this splitting headache. All he could just remember is, what's going on? How did I get here? He looked around and he could see mountains as far as his eye could see. Just these beautiful mountains, snow covered, and in the sky was just this bright blue, except for a few clouds that kind of were scattered around. He looked around the room and he saw no one, nothing. He stood up, and to his astonishment, he felt the best he'd ever felt before. Before this, he was sick. He'd been hospitalized for a few weeks because of an issue with his bones where everything was just starting to break down on him. "What's going on?" he said out loud. He walked down the corridor and he opened the door, and he could see clearly there were people in the next room over. He walked down the corridor, and once he opened the door, the people stopped what they were doing and looked at him. There was clanking where people were dropping their forks. Someone even dropped a plate. "Who are you? How'd you get here?" a man asked. Daniel replied, "I don't know. I just woke up. Does someone have a Tylenol? My head is hurting." The man punches Daniel in the face, and they begin this all-out fight. No one gets up, but Daniel knows exactly what to do. He's been in so many fights in school, and so he blocks the guy's first punch that was aiming at his face and punches the man back. But this man, he had been trained before, and Daniel can tell. And the man sweeps under Daniel and sweeps Daniel's feet out from under him. Daniel was now back on the floor. His head was hurting even worse. The man held Daniel down by the throat and said, "You're going to go with me now. Or do you want me to just kill you on the spot?" Daniel shook his head and said, "No, no, take me with you. I'll do whatever you want. Just please don't hurt me." Tears began welling up in Daniel's eyes. He didn't want to get hurt. He didn't even know why he was on this train. He doesn't want to be here. Of course, he'd been on many trains before, so that's how he knew he was on a train. He lives in Chicago, and so to get around to different places, he and his mother would usually take the train. And a lot of times when he was with his dad, they would take train rides all around Chicago, and he just loved it. But this train ride, he didn't love. This was probably one of the worst train rides Daniel had ever been on. The man lifted Daniel up and said, "Follow me." He grabbed his arm and Daniel felt the grasp his of this man's hand, and it was a death grasp, death hold. Daniel thought he was gonna die. He walked with the man, well, behind the man, and he didn't talk. He just looked around and saw all these people staring at him, and Daniel had all these thoughts going through his head, these thoughts of fear. How did he get here? What's going on? How can he walk again? Why doesn't he feel all of the aches that he had been feeling for the past few weeks? They got to the end of the corridor, and the man opened the door. But to get into the next corridor, he had to enter a code. Daniel tried to look through the window, but the window to the next corridor was blacked out. After entering 4 numbers, the door opened, and there was still nothing but darkness in that next corridor. Daniel felt the hand on his arm pull him even harder, and so Daniel stumbled into the dark room. After the door closed, though, the lights burst open, and there was a loud shout of, "Surprise!" His mother and the rest of his family were all in this giant corridor. His mother shrieked. "What did you do to my baby's face?" she asked. "Well, I had to freak him out somehow," the man said as he let go of Daniel's arm. "What am I doing here?" Daniel asked. Well, it was his father who was talking this time. His father never really talked to Daniel as they were equals. He always talked to Daniel as though Daniel was nothing. "Well, you see, son, we know you've not been doing too well, and we decided we're going to take you somewhere, and you're not going to know about it. Neither any of your friends, neither will anybody else." And at that moment, Daniel realized his family's crazy. Of course, he's known this for a while, but it's only now starting to click how crazy his family actually was. This isn't the first time his parents have done something like this. Of course, it hasn't been this drastic before, but one time they hired this really big guy. I think he might have been a bouncer at a club or something, but they hired him to take me out of school, and he took me down this alley, and he made it seem like I had to go see some big boss guy. But then it was just my parents telling me that we were going to go to a baseball game that day. It was one of the weirdest things they'd done up to this point. "What are you going to do now?" his brother asked. "Well, I think we're just going to put him out for now because I don't think he's going to like the rest of this trip." "Put me out? What do you mean, put me out, Dad?" Daniel was freaking out. His arms were flailing all over the place. The man who had tried to punch him in the face earlier grabbed both of Daniel's arms as his mother went over to him with a needle. Except it was one of the largest needles that Daniel had ever seen. No, you know I hate needles. No." And that was the last thing Daniel saw in that train. The needle was put into his neck, and the contents of the needle was injected into his body. The rest of the trip, Daniel was just sitting on a chair, and his family was talking, and he was just not being able to do anything. Until he finally woke up in an abandoned alley. Nobody was there with him, and he stood up again. He was half expecting his legs to start aching once more, or his head to quit hurting, or something, but nothing. And so he stood up again, and he walked over to the edge of the alley, toward the street. He looked around. There were no cars. He looked once more to the right because he thought he saw something. There was just a little flicker of light. He began to run to it because this was the weirdest thing his family's ever done. He just couldn't take it anymore. He began to run in just this dead sprint. No, they're not doing this to me again. No, not another prank. I can't take it anymore. And at that moment, he jumped up, and with this tremendous force, he felt his body weightless in the air. He looked down, and he was floating. Yes, floating. Whoa! No! What's going on? Someone get me down! He screamed. I can help you. He looked down, and there was a girl with blonde hair and pale yellow eyes. I can help you as long as you promise to be my friend. Yeah, fine. I'll do anything. Just get me down. She held out her right hand, and there was a yellow ball glowing in that right hand. The yellow ball seemed to be warm, and Daniel's body just began to fill with joy and excitement. His body began slowly descending down back onto the earth until he landed back on his feet, and all of his weight just came back to him at once, and he fell once again. And of course, he was waiting for his body to be aching again, but nothing. Not a single pain. Why, thank you. I do you know how I got here? No, I was hoping you could tell me how I got here. She said, oh, well, I was with my family on a train. They were pulling a prank on me, and bam, I'm here. I got a little excited. I got up there, and holy crap, how are you able to do that? Oh, do this? She held out her right hand again, and once more, a yellow ball of light came out of her hand, and that same excitement and feeling that Daniel had came back, and he didn't want it to leave because it was so warm and he'd never felt that in his life. Then the light faded away. Oh, yeah, I've been able to do that since I was a kid. Well, I don't know how it happened. It just happened. And then whenever it happened, I also got this. She moved some of her hair out of her face, and there was a jewel in the middle of her forehead. Well, not really her forehead. It was more between the eyes. And then there was this tattoo kind of appearing on the left side of her face and a little bit on her chin. Yeah, these tattoos happen too. Do you have them too? I mean, you have powers as well, don't you? Well, I don't know. I've never flown before. This has never happened to me. And at that moment, Daniel began looking around, rolling all of his sleeves up, hoping that there'd be a tattoo, because for most of his life he'd wanted a tattoo because tattoos are cool. All of his friends had tattoos, but nothing. He couldn't find a single thing. Oh well, you may not have powers like I do. I don't know if the tattoos are connected with powers, but I mean, I just got mine whenever I started having my powers. Well, in any case, maybe you can help me. I'm kind of lost here as well. My name is Joy. Yeah, I know it's a little weird, but my parents decided to name me Joy. They would hope I'd be joyful, but most of my life, I'm not. What's your name? Daniel looked at this girl really weird. It seemed like she spoke without thinking. And Daniel didn't really like that because most of the people he knew who did that were kind of weirdos. My name's Daniel, he said. And the girl looked at him kind of strangely. Oh, well, that's kind of an ordinary name. I was hoping that you'd be something like a Travis or a Jermaine But then an explosion just made a car behind them skyrocket, and Joy just let out this scream. Ah! Oh, what's going on? Are you doing something again? No. We have to get. Let's get out of here. I don't like this. The car landed right next to another car, and both cars began to catch on fire, and more explosions began happening around them, and so they just began running together, and uh, Daniel reached out his right hand and grabbed Joy by her left arm, and they were running as fast as they could. He finally had someone that he could maybe talk to if anything happened, and he was so scared now, and he could tell that she was scared too. And they kept running and running and running, and then a car in front of them exploded, and they both fell to the ground. And while they were on the ground, they looked up, and there was someone standing there, except this man had some kind of giant gun. He looked down at both of them and said, "Hey, finally got you. Bet you thought you could run from me, didn't you?" No, I wasn't trying to run from you. I don't even know who you are. How did I get here? Daniel was starting to get really annoyed now because he just wanted answers. Everybody had answers for themselves, but he didn't have answers for himself. The man pointed the gun at Daniel and Joy. "Yeah, well, it's time for you guys to die." And he pulled the trigger, and an explosion erupted from the gun. Joy, she held out her right hand, and the ball appeared again, except it didn't fill Daniel with joy. No, it filled him with rage this time, and all these different emotions that he had never felt. And then his back began to hurt, and this this eruption erupted on in Daniel's back. "Ah!" Daniel yelled as the pain began to be too much for him. Was this all of his ailments coming back? Then he looked around him, and fire was surrounding him. Except then he realized it wasn't just fire, but wings were coming out of his back. What? And just like he knew what he was doing, he began to flap the wings as hard as he could, and he flapped his right wing really hard, and he was able to knock that blast away. The man with the gun looked in astonishment. "No, not another one. I can't believe I let another one emerge." And the man pulled out another gun, pointed it at his head, and fired. Blood went everywhere, and Daniel and Joy, they didn't know what was going on. Daniel especially was freaking out. "What? I can't." And he began to flap his wings as hard as he could. And the more he thought about flapping the wings, the more that his wings did flap. And eventually he was lifted up into the air. And Joy looked at him in astonishment. "That's so cool, Daniel. I can't believe... Wait, what's going on?" Daniel's shirt burnt off, and he couldn't contain any of his emotions anymore, and he let out an anger-filled scream. "Ah!" And his arms caught on fire, and his wings caught on fire. And then, out of nowhere, his wings just disappeared, and he fell back to the ground with a tremendous force. Everything began to start hurting again, and he thought that his ailment was back. But after Joy let out that ball again, he began to feel better,
Except this time it was like someone had given him some kind of morphine or something, and there wasn't any pain in Daniel's body. So, what do you think is going on with me? Daniel said. I don't know, but let's keep walking. Daniel got up. He was getting a little cold because, not having a shirt kind of cooled things down a bit. So they kept walking, and they didn't talk at all. Well, they did a little bit, but that was only whenever one of them had some kind of suggestion whether to go right on the road or go left. And so they didn't really get to know each other in this little bit of time together. Then they emerged into this, and they saw this majestic looking castle. They didn't know how things transitioned from this wrecked up looking city all the way to this castle. It was beautiful. It was the greatest thing either of them had ever seen. And uh, Daniel was filled with joy once again, and he felt like he was going to be saved. Maybe he might get answers. And so he broke out in a run, and just thinking about it, he was thinking wings, and the wings appeared, and he jumped up in the air and started flapping the wings, and in just about 30 seconds he got to the castle. He made it to the front entrance, and then the wings disappeared once more. Lightning began to crack all around him, and then he was wondering, how do I put them away again? He was talking about the wings, of course. And then after that, his wings just disappeared. Of course, Daniel had no idea what in the world was going on. And so he walked up some stairs, and he made it to these giant doors, and he pounded on them as hard as he could. And the door creaked open, but there wasn't anyone there. He walks in, and he looks around. Everything's dark. Daniel doesn't know what to do, but he keeps walking. It seems like he'd been there before. He took a left, and he looked in front of him. There was a light at the end of a hallway, and so he broke out into a run once more, and he's running and running and running, and then bam, he runs right into a wall. He is knocked out from the force of this hit, and he wakes up again to Joy standing over him. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Oh, nothing, just sitting here, hanging out. "And how did you get knocked out?" she asked. "Oh, I hit a wall." "Oh, what, do you think I'm an idiot?" Daniel saw that Joy had this kind of judgmental look on her face. But then a voice kind of called out to them. "Daniel, Joy, get in here now." Daniel recognized this voice. It was his father. What in the world was his father doing here? And that is the end of the story. I know I stuttered a bit, but I was making up all of this on the spot. And I think this went pretty well. Let me know what you guys think. I might do a few more of these. Might have James do one of these. And so, yeah, you guys have a great rest of your day, evening, afternoon, whatever time you guys are watching this. I'll see you guys later.